For making this form prettier, I don't want to render the entire form like this, but instead I want to gain more control over how it's being output. And for that, I'll start by adding a div here for every form control, which I'll give a class of form-control. And in that div, I then want to output the different parts of my individual controls. Now for that, I want to loop through all the controls to repeat this part for every form control, so for every form input. And we can do this with a for tag and loop through all the form fields in comment form. So that's the part I want to loop through here. And therefore in this div, I now will access all my individual form fields. And then, for example, I want to output the label with the label tag property. Then the actual input. So just like this, the actual HTML element, I mean. And then below that, any potential errors that might be related to that input with the errors key. Now we are repeating this, and now I can use this div or this class here for some extra styling. Now, we do include the post detail CSS file specifically for this post detail page. So it's in this file where I will also add the styling for this form, though you could also create a separate CSS file for this form and include that as well if you want to. But I'll set up some styling here, and you find that finished styling also attached in case you want to fast forward here and you don't want to watch me define the styles together with you. So here I'll style the form control, so the overall div, and add a margin to the bottom of, let's say, 1 rem. I'll then also style the labels inside of the form control div and give them a font weight of bold and a margin to the bottom of 0.5 rem to have some spacing between the label and the input to which it belongs. And I'll also add display block here to make sure that the labels go into a separate line and they're not side by side to the inputs. I will also style the inputs and also the text area, because for the comment text, a text area will be rendered. And I'll set this to display block as well. Give this a width of 100%. Set the font to inherit and add a padding of 0.25 rem in all directions. And give this slightly rounded corners with a border radius of 6 pixels. I also, by the way, want to style the overall form, and therefore I'll give this form an ID of comment-form so that I can select this ID in the post detail CSS file and also style the overall form to give it a width of, let's say, 20 rem, a max width of 20 rem, I mean, and a width of 90% for smaller screens, and a margin of 3 rem top and bottom and auto left and right to center this. I'll also add a border radius of 12 pixels here, give it a background color of white, and add a slight box shadow here so that this actually has a slight drop shadow which is being rendered. Now with all that applied, if we reload, that changed a bit, but it's not entirely there yet. We want to open the developer tools and reload by clicking with the right mouse button on this icon and then empty a cache and hard reload. And now we have more of our styles being applied here because some of the styles still were cached before. And I also want to go to the comment form and add a padding of 1 rem in all directions here so that there is some spacing, and actually make it a bit wider than 20 rem, maybe 40 rem. Yeah, that looks better. And I also want to style my button here. So I will select this comment form ID and then the button in there, and inherit my font for the button as well. Give it a background color of, let's pick maybe this purple we're also using in the header of our starting page. So let's set this purple as a background color here and add a white text color and a border of 1 pixel solid and this dark purple color. And then a padding of 0.5 rem left and right and 1.5 rem, no, 0.5 rem top and bottom and 1.5 rem left and right, and a border radius of 6 pixels here. That looks good. Now let's also give this a cursor of pointer to change the mouse button when we hover over it. And let's also give this dedicated hover and active styles so that when we hover over it or when it's active, we also change the background color a little bit. And here I'll simply make this a bit brighter. So pick a little bit of a lighter purple and also set this for the border color than this color which I picked for the background. With that, we got this button, we got this form. Now you can of course tweak it even more. You can change it however you want, but I'm happy with this form here. Maybe we should also add a little title above it though, here, where we say your comment, and maybe therefore change this to a section instead of a div, like this. So that if we save this and reload, we also got that. And therefore, actually, I want to add this ID not to my form, but to this overall section here, so that this title is inside of this box. And now we have that look here. Now, there are a couple of things which I still want to tweak. For example, on my input and the text area, I want to add a border of 1 pixel solid and a light gray, so that I don't use this dark border here, but I have a lighter border around all these input elements. And with that, we're good to go, I would say. Now we have this form in place. Now let's work on the form submission and handling.